The Art of Being Ruled. Wyndham Lewis. Original publication 1926. 1989 edition. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 7. The Family and Feminism. Chapter 6. The War of One Half Against the Other. Wealth is the only thing today that confers power or class on an individual. Wealth is an abstract thing independent of social organization, or of national organization, or of a secular stake in the country. When it pretends to delegate power to other categories of things or of people, the democracy or what not, it is merely acting through them. They are its helpless and hypnotized instruments. And naturally it chooses for its instruments the most helpless and ill-equipped classes of the community. It is thus that 100 things are done today in the divine name of youth, that if they showed their true colors would be seen by rights to belong rather to old age. Things are done, likewise, in the name of liberty, that are, in truth, the promptings of oppression. As Proudhon truly says, grâce au prestige de ces mots liberté, si étrangement prostitue, on a rendu les travailleurs eux-mêmes complices de leur propre infortune. Thanks to the prestige of this word liberty, so strangely prostituted, the workers have been made the accomplices of their own misfortune, la capacité politique, etc. All the rashness, ignorance, and weakness of women are similarly exploited. Things are undertaken in their name, or in that of their supposed cause, feminism, that have nothing at all to do with them. The following speech from Renan's remarkable continuation of The Tempest of Shakespeare puts the matter in its true light: for every epoch, forever and ever without end, unless the capitalistic unification of the world works the miracle that it may, and the cannon fodder is turned into a more productive, humane article. Orlando, a clear, reflecting, self-loving consciousness would say to itself that the essential thing in a battle is not to be killed. It is, therefore, necessary to maintain a vast reserve of ignorance and stupidity, a mass of people so simple that they can be taught to believe that if they are killed they will either go to heaven or that their lot is to be envied by the living. They make their armies of such creatures as those and not out of the intelligent classes, for if all were people of sense, nobody would be sacrificed, as each would say, my life is worth more to me than anything else. As a rule, all heroism is due to a lack of reflection, and thus it is necessary to maintain a mass of imbeciles. If they once understand themselves, the ruling men will be lost. A man rules by employing one half of these animals to conquer the other half. In the same way the art of politics lies in dividing the people and controlling each section by means of the other. To do that, one of these halves must be brutalized, so that the rest may be more easily separated from them, for if the armed and unarmed once realize their position, the very structure of society will be wrecked. Rusciero. That is truly spoken. There is one thing which always fills me with uncontrollable laughter, and that is when Turks and Christians go to war. Each fights without nourishment or pay, and each buoys up his heart with the assurance that if the fortune of battle decrees his death he will go forthwith to paradise. Now, either the Turk or the Christian must be deceived, for if the Christian's heaven exists it precludes that of the Turk, on the ground of total unlikeness. It is impossible that both of the enraged combatants can be right at the same time, etc. Caliban, Act 2. Scene 1. Renan. If you do not regard feminism with an uplifting sense of the gloriousness of woman's industrial destiny, or in the way, in short, that it is prescribed, by the rules of the political publicist, that you should, that will be interpreted by your opponents as an attack on woman. But it is not necessarily that, of course. It might even be a chivalrous defense instead of an attack. I lay no claim here to any chivalrous intention, but it is certainly not as an anti-feminist that I am writing. Traditionally, women and children are the most helpless and ill-equipped categories of mankind. Up to the present, equality of opportunity has not been achieved, and they are still the most credulous and influenceable of us. It is natural, therefore, that a great political power, interested only in domination and in nothing else, would seize on them as its most readily manipulated tools. By flattery and coercion it would discipline their ignorance and weakness into an organized instrument of social and political domination. As an alternative to the system suggested in the speech quoted above, by which one half of the mass of those animals or imbeciles is used against the other half, there is that by which the mass of the ill-equipped, easily influenced, and credulous can be used to destroy the minority that knows a little more than it is proper that it should know, that is not so easy to fool, therefore, and is not so helpless. The war of the lowbrow against the highbrow is a conflict fomented on the same principle. We live beset with civil wars, in the envenomed and bitterly organized world. Almost any generalization must range against you the legions of this or that zealous social host, daily subjected to press discipline, breathing defiance, whether really affected by your statement or not. I am about to examine very briefly a prediction of Mr. Haldane's. In doing so I shall occasionally refer to woman. Before permitting myself that dangerous license I must define what I mean. A very great superficial difference still exists between women and men. As you see women walking about the streets they are, as far as possible, luxuriously and exquisitely dressed, very neat, as far as possible chaque cheveux a place, their clothes are chosen as far as possible of flimsy and seductive material, they are still, in short, more ornamental, silken, frail, treated with cosmetics, and sedulously trimmed than are men. The sex specialization is with them in the nature of an obsession, therefore, to that extent, in the sense that they still think of themselves more as women than men think first and foremost of themselves as men. They get themselves up so that they shall be graceful and seductive. But the mind of the woman, stripped of this secondary equipment of grace and feminineness, is not, almost everyone will admit, very different to that of the man. When speaking of women, then, as we must sometimes do, it is naturally of this artificial, secondary creature, not of a platonic androgyne, of a naked soul, or of the violent or gentle, charming or offensive creature that you know as Rose or Mary to be at the heart of her specialization. Every specialization or shop, when earnestly attended to for a long time, is apt to take on an obsessional tinge. The woman's shop no doubt is no exception to this rule. The woman, the delicate, perfumed, carefully arranged, stilted, painted, and colored feminine shell is a thing that training as a painter can only help you to appreciate. I do not believe that any painter would be inconsolable at the thought that he lived in this backward world of sex differentiation. In the present essay the manly male is written about with sufficient boldness for us to be permitted perhaps a brief though penetrating glance at the complementary figure of the woman, though if attacked in consequence of this latter license, I am well aware that it would be a more serious affair than would be the resentment of the poor, bloated caveman.